Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from PaulGaleNetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is November 19th, 2020, and these are the top stories of the day. Personally, I think there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about, so I'm kind of extra excited for today's show. To kick things off, we've got an interesting tweet that came out of nowhere from the James Bond 007 Twitter account, so let me just push play and watch this 50-second video with me. I like the spiraling. Project 007 working title is a brand new James Bond video game. Classic music with a wholly original story. Developed and published by IOI. Earn your 00 status in the very first James Bond origin story to be developed and published by IO Interactive. That's awesome. This came out of nowhere, like I said earlier. I love the James Bond franchise. I grew up watching as older films, the majority of the James Bond movies, and then, when I was old enough to be around as new ones came out, was watching, GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, the Pierce Brosnan era, and then, of course, the Daniel Craig era, going up to the most recent film, and I'm looking forward to the next one. GoldenEye 007, the game for Nintendo 64, was fantastic, and that's what really leveled up my fandom of James Bond to new levels. But everything from Sean Connery to Timothy Dalton to Roger Moore, I enjoy the series overall, and it's been a while since we've had a great James Bond game. But yeah, here's to whatever this project turns out to be. Is it going to be first person, third person, spy, shooting? It's probably going to be a variety of things, and it's an original story too, so that's pretty cool. I'm curious to see who's writing it and who's going to voice act James Bond. Will it be somebody brand new? Could we see an existing, James Bond actor from yesteryear reprise his role and supply the voice? What's the modeling going to look like? An original take on Bond, or use the likeness of a former actor? I don't know. I'm pretty stoked though, so that's kind of exciting. Next up, a little bit of doom and gloom, literally. There are rumors going around that Doom Eternal for Nintendo Switch has either been canceled, which I sincerely hope is not the case, or may only end up being a digital title. If it's digital only, well, that's fine. That does hamper the game's chances of succeeding and reaching big numbers, by a certain percentage, because some people just don't like owning digital games, and some will omit it for that very reason. So hopefully it's still coming out and also on cartridge format, but even if not, I'll still take it, digitally. I have the game on my Xbox One X and it's terrific, but it's something that I would like to own also on Nintendo Switch, because just from that graphical difference comparison, how they crammed so much onto the cartridge, as long as it runs well, I'll be impressed to see that type of game running on that platform. And if it's running well, like I said, it makes it worth owning, because to play this game all over again in portable mode on the couch, take it with me when I go somewhere. It's just a fun game to have, to pick up, play, bust some stages out, and then move on. I was a big fan of Doom on the Nintendo Switch, as well as Wolfenstein 2, so the system's definitely capable. Hopefully we get this title, though. Crossing my fingers that these rumors are fake. Well, fake or incorrect, false. Yeah, at the end of the day, not accurate. Moving on, though, to some better news. It is November 19th, as I mentioned, and that means that PlayStation 5 has now released in its next batch of countries. It came out exactly a week ago on the 12th in the United States and several other countries around the world, but now the 19th marks its second launch date to the other territories. So hopefully things are going well. I'm enjoying Spider-Man Miles Morales, that's for sure. And do you remember, it was a few days ago when I mentioned that so far just a handful of people, like 5 or 7 or so people, small amount, were experiencing problems? Well, it looks like more people now are sharing problems of systems arriving dead, systems arriving, working, and then crashing and not turning back on, or working, crashing, having some kind of load error, disk getting stuck in, having to reboot the whole thing, some kind of issue when it comes to, for instance, playing Spider-Man, pausing the game, entering the system in sleep mode, coming back on, and then having to reset the whole platform back to day one. Like, I haven't experienced that problem. In fact, I've only experienced one problem, and it was in Spider-Man. I was just playing around, nothing too, graphically demanding on the system in that case, not like a scene with explosions or anything like that. Just went from a story, went into another setting, swinging around, and then just froze, no control, and went to a screen. Do you wish to report this to, Sony? Yes, no, and I clicked yes. If it could help out, if it could help improve whatever error, might as well. So that's the only issue, just one time. So personally, I'm enjoying it. My console's fine. I'm liking the controller a lot, loving the game, and I'm not experiencing any crazy heat or noise, but more people are, coming to with these problems. So hopefully it's not a whole lot. Hopefully it still represents a small percentage. But if you're one of the people that did not get a PS5 at launch, don't feel too bad. Maybe let Sony iron out the bugs and, come back in like January, February, instead of paying a lot online for one, instead of, being stressed out that you can't play one for the holidays. There's other stuff. And be peace of mind that when you do get it, it's probably going to have a greater chance of having less errors, But anyways, congrats, Sony, on your second launch. Moving along, since it is Thursday, Thursdays are one of my favorite days of the week because we get our weekly Famitsu Sales out of Japan. And thank you, Chris1964 and the ResetEra.com forums for providing this. This data is the data that I was looking forward to for weeks. It represents week 46 of the year, specifically November 9th through November 15th, because the next-gen consoles are out. So let's take a look at this chart, okay? Coming at number 1 is a PS4 game. Haven't seen that in a while. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War with 84,000. At number 2 is another PS4 game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, with 45,000. Nintendo Switch came in at number 3 with their version of Sakuna with 32,000. We will see how PS4 did later on with that same title. Animal Crossing at number 4, slight bump over the previous week, getting 32,500. Pikmin 3 Deluxe at number 5, hanging in there, not too bad of a drop with 31,000. Ring Fit Adventure, I love seeing this one on here, 24,000. Sakuna on PS4, 22,000. Now this is a pretty cool sales debut for the game because it's a smaller title, but Marvelous has got to be pretty happy with the numbers because when you combine these two together, you're looking at 55,800 copies sold, and that's nice to see. Now, it's also interesting to see that the Nintendo Switch version actually sold a decent amount more than the PlayStation 4 version, but overall, a solid entry point on both. At number 8, you've got Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the PlayStation 4 version with 22,000. Number 9 is Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory on Nintendo Switch with 22,000. And at number 10, we've got one PS5 title, which is also Miles Morales at 18,000. So you can see that, the PS4 version sold more than the PS5 version of Spider-Man by 4,200. But you could say that potentially people bought the PS4 version because they plan to upgrade eventually on their PS5 when they do get one, or maybe even now they, have the opportunity to buy Spider-Man on PS4 for cheaper, use it on their new PS5 and upgrade like that. So that's also a possibility, but cool seeing Miles Morales on there. I'm loving the game, like I said earlier. It's so much fun. It looks so crisp. I've been playing on fidelity mode from launch to today, and I just switched over to performance mode, and honestly, both are really good. I can't complain at either. You could tell the difference between 30 and 60, but the 30 is so smooth that I don't have any issues. On the flip side, the game looks really nice in both versions, but you could once again tell that the graphics are better in fidelity. If I had to pick one, I picked the fidelity mode because I like the better graphics with still a steady frame rate. If it was a chuggish frame rate, I'd have to go with 60 or a solid 30 over a choppy 30. But a solid 30 with great graphics versus still good graphics and 60 with the frame rate, I think I'm going to switch back to fidelity personally. Looking at the chart breakdown, you've got Nintendo Switch with 5, PlayStation 4 with 4, and PS5 with 1. But overall, pretty interesting chart. Nothing mind-blowing from a sales perspective on the software side of things. However, next week, I expect the software to be pretty interesting because we're going to have Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity out, and I expect that to definitely be the number one selling game of that week. And moving into hardware, here's where it gets a little more interesting, I think. We've got somebody that's first place for the week in quite a while, and that's the PlayStation 5. Of course, it just debuted, so naturally you can expect some high numbers. 118,085 consoles sold for the week. Nintendo Switch, however, was no slouch. It just barely missed it by, less than 2,000, so it actually got really close. Now it is a little bit less than last week's 139,000, and it is less than last year's respective 180,000, but that's not cause of concern like, oh boy, Nintendo Switch was doing great all year round and now it's just going to collapse in the holidays compared to last year. No, not the case. It was higher last year for this specific week by 180,000 compared to this 116, but you also got to remember Pokemon Sword and Shield launched last year this time. So naturally, without Nintendo Switch having a major title release this week, or last week in Japan in this case, it's understandable why it's, a smaller number. But overall, with this week's 116,000 sold, we're at 16 million officially in Japan, which is just wild, especially when you look at how poor the Wii U did. To see Nintendo Switch in 3.5 years flip it around and do 16 million is stunning. The Xbox Series of platforms did 20,000, and that's pretty respectable. Look at this. Xbox One, in its lifetime of almost 7 years, sold 114,000. Xbox Series S and X sold 20,000. A little less than a fifth of it in the first opening weekend. So cross your fingers for Microsoft that they could break a little more market this time around. They have a couple of things going for them. If you want to get into a next-gen ecosystem, the PS5 has, $500 and $400 option. Of course, in yen, you'd have to translate that. An Xbox Series X and S has a $500 and $300 version, in which Microsoft decided to release the S for even a little bit less. So on the Xbox side of things, you have a cheaper alternative to get into next-gen gaming, and you have a smaller box, with Japan being a country that likes things smaller in their households. And you look at a PS5, occupies a lot of space. I don't mind. I have the space in my entertainment center personally. But for a lot of folks, and Japan oriented in this case, they like it smaller. So an Xbox Series S might make more sense for more folks than any Xbox system has ever had before it stacked up against a PlayStation console of the respective generation. And of course we got PS4 at almost 3,000, 3DS at almost 500, and the original Xbox One at 25. So pretty cool look, pretty cool breakdown. You can see that the X outsold the S 16,000 to 4,000. The PS5 had a greater disc 103,000 to digital 14,000. And as usual, the Nintendo Switch was the better system sales wise than the Nintendo Switch Lite, 93,000 to 22,000. But interesting chart. It will be fun to see next week just how Hyrule Warriors makes this stuff bump up. And yeah, I have high hopes that this generation is going to be solid. Also, I should note that both systems pretty much sold out, which means that Microsoft probably could have sold a lot more than 20,000 had they had the inventory, but they just didn't. And PS5, I'm sure, could have also sold more than 118,000, but limited supplies and all that. So don't necessarily think that these are too low. It's just also a stock thing, and it's a pandemic thing, and it's trying to have worldwide launches during this crazy time. So that's a little bit of that. And finally, this is more of a reminder, because I'm really looking forward to Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, as I mentioned just in sales talk for a moment there. But it comes out tomorrow. Finally, this game was announced a couple of months ago, announced that it was coming out November 20th, came out of nowhere. I loved how Nintendo did this. I'm sure it would have been a big E3 reveal, but then that's how Hyrule Warriors was originally revealed for Nintendo. Wii U back in the day was in a direct, so we didn't get quite that delivery, but just this sudden announcement, fantastic. Prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I love it. It was also, one of my top picks for November this year, as I wrote in my article in Shag Mag for the month of November. So, pretty excited. Can't wait. Comes out on my son's birthday. And speaking of that, gotta give a shout out to my boy. That's my son Bryson. He turns 6 tomorrow. So happy birthday in advance, buddy. We're gonna have a lot of fun playing Hyrule Warriors together. And of course, that's me and my wife Kim and my daughter Brooke. So that's gonna be it today for video game news. I just thought I'd share that little fun thing. I'm a personal guy. I like to connect with you. I enjoy talking. I enjoy this engagement and answering questions and asking stuff myself. So this is a little bit of me. Thank you for watching. This has been a fun episode. Let me know what you think, whether it's James Bond, Doom stuff, the PS5 launch, my Famitsu Sales charts. Are they rubbing off on you? Are you liking them more and more? Are you getting Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? Yeah. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. See you next time.